Hello friends, how are you all? Hope you are doing great at various aspects of your lives. The human mind is a strange creation. It can do wonderful good things and at the same time it is capable of creating havoc also. When we see the crime in society, we see it backed by many things: the social and financial circumstances, the way the person grew up, the choices he or she had at certain junctions of life. All these are plays a vital role in his or her course of action. But in most of the cases, there has been a choice that leads to the actions. Some crimes are committed in such a mysterious way that it turns out completely different than what it seemed at the first glance. That's where a detective comes into the picture. Detective fictions and crime thrillers are enjoyed by the people a lot. And it is not necessary to have a criminal mind to enjoy such stories. On the contrary, vigilante people love solving crime-related puzzles more often. Actually, such stories often prove to be a good mental exercise that help the little grey cells in development. We love reading such thrillers. After all, it is rightly said that reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. Today, we are going to talk about a thriller named Bhoot, Bhavish, Bartaman by Mehool Parekh. Published by Leadstart Publishing, this book is a detective fiction blend with police-procedural. We got a complimentary review copy of this book. The review is, as always, unbiased and uninfluenced by all means. We certainly should not judge a book by its cover, but it is definitely one of the most influential factors of the book. Actually, it is responsible for making the first impression of the book and thus plays a vital role in influencing a lot of book picking up and purchase decisions for sure. So let us take a look at the cover page of this book. As you can see, the dark background makes it appealing. You can see illustrations of the faces of some prime characters in a small game board where you can move pieces. The color theme for these photos will remind you of photographic negatives in the dark room. That became almost vintage these days in the era of a digital camera though. A nice way to represent the past and mystery both. The book title and taglines are written using light colors. Overall, an attractive cover page. Let us take a bird's eye view of the book plot. Major Bartaman Bhaumik, popularly referred to as Betty, is stationed at Pune cantonment. He was enjoying the party of a colleague. In the city, a girl named Rupali Jadhav was stabbed to death in her home. The attacker has vented out his or her frustration and anger by stabbing her 16 times. Definitely an act of revenge. The dead body of Rupali doesn't show any sign of struggle. It was calm. Senior Inspector Ravi Lokhande, the in charge of the team, including Constable Rajan Shinde, came to the conclusion that it must have been a murder committed by the servant. There are some circumstantial evidences backing this theory. Betty and reporter Robin Chaudhary thought that this case is not as simple as it seems and they need to team up again to uncover the truth. Betty applied for 10 days leaves, and with the help of his cousin, he and Robin got the permissions and ensured full support from the police department to investigate this case. But is it really a complicated crime, or it is simply an open and shut case? The story moves in two parallel threads. One thread explores the life of Rupali from her early age to her death. Another thread is obviously traveling through the investigations of Betty and Robin. And during these courses, we meet Professor Vinay Sahasrabuddhe, Deep Kalra, Abbas, Madhav, Sudesh, and Dr. Manohar in some prominent roles. To support them, there are Rohini, Uday, Vaishali, Vitthal, Saraswati, Priyavardhan, Colonel Bakshi, Colonel Shyam Panjwani, and many other characters. My views and reviews for this book. Mehool Parekh, the author, came up with some interesting points in the book. I found it a good thriller, and the suspense is built quite interestingly. We can surely expect more thrillers from the author and curious to explore them. I will try to avoid as many spoilers as possible, but some of them are inevitable. So please listen to this book review podcast with that consent. The title of the book is quite interesting. Bhoot, the past. Bhavish, the future. Bartaman, the present, represents all the respective time segments. Interestingly, the name of the male protagonist is also Bartaman, Major Bartaman Bhaumik to be precise. Strong characters is one of the strongest point of this book. Almost all the characters have their own shades of grey, and that makes them real. Also, the way the author has named them is interesting too. The analogy of name of Bartaman and Robin and their comparison with Batman and Robin makes them more interesting. In this book, you can also find references to some real life characters like Rakesh Maria and Anil Kapoor. At the same time, you will find references to the character of Poirot, the famous fictional detective by Agatha Christie, the Queen of Crimes as she is popularly known as even today, through the phrases like grey sails. A film plays an important role in the story as some of the characters are associated with making of it. If the star cast and other aspects of the film crash, as it is named in the book, reminds of the actual Hindi film with the mind-blowing Mahiya song, you must be a movie enthusiast. Of course, the author comes with a disclaimer and claims everything is fictional. We also maintain the same. The inspiration, however, can be taken from anywhere, right? Friendship is a very interesting relationship. It is one of those rare relationships that we commit to by our own will. A person befriends with the one whom he or she trusts and or has similar thought process or likes and dislikes. Here is a quote from the book that shows the bond between Bartaman and Robin. Betty always marveled at how accurately Robin could figure out from his voice and tone whether he was bored, upset, by, drunk, or just plain preoccupied, even when he tried his utmost to sound the same at all the times. Being a thriller, this book has some interesting lines about the human psyche and the way we think. Here are some of them. A lot of small details get obfuscated once fear takes over. Silence works wonders in creating pressure on the person who is talking. Most times, people keep talking just to avoid the discomfort of silence. Funny how adrenaline pumping development can clear fog of alcohol included stupor so quickly. The book has some words of wisdom for everyone. Better not to ask those questions for which one was not ready to hear the answers. Arguing with idiots had the same effect as spitting at the sky. Your projectile landed back on you sooner or later. The way people on the other side of the law, those who want to con others by any means, think is elaborated quite interestingly in this book. Instinctively aware that value lay in not easily letting people get what they want. An attractive woman finds eager believers, and good manipulator can always mold her story the way she wants to. Here is something everyone needs to understand for their own safety. Betty marveled at how observant servants tend to be. The employers may not think so, but servants and employees tend to know exactly what is going on in a home or in an organization, often far more than the employer suspect or even think. Nothing escapes their attention. The book has some real stuff to convey about the way people are living wrongly. He knew people from his family, particularly the younger generation, who could devour an entire pizza, but if served with regular home fare, would eat a tiny bit with great difficulty. They were usually not hungry unless it was their favorite food, and then you couldn't stop them. They were actually willing to sacrifice health for emotional reasons. When will Indians learn to take their health seriously? Again, it is all about choices one has and what he or she acts upon. The author brings in some interesting lines to elaborate respective scenes. For example, the building lift was temperamental and Lokhande had to climb 3 stories to get home. And yes, he talks about the times when, despite knowing the fact, one has to surrender to the spouse, especially to keep the peace at home. The price one has to pay for marital peace. It is definitely an interesting take on the social canvas, applicable to both of the genders. It seems that the author himself likes discipline and honesty in work. He seems to get irritated when seeing something out of place. He vents his thoughts in a scene of this book that tells everything. Kalraz, the poor grammar of which made Betty wince inwardly. Why people converted their surnames into possessive nouns was a mystery he never understood. At the same time, I think the book could have been a little better proofread. You will find phrases like bosses, abasses that could have been written properly. Sometimes unnecessary space, white space, or lack of it should have to be taken care of properly. We have shared some such instances on our review article. Apart from such minor errors, I found the book quite an interesting thriller. There are cuss words and references to adulteries that makes the target readers group restricted to be mature ones only. Of course, there are many other aspects like the way the book has explored the con acts, life in poverty, banking system, scams and other stuff. I must have talked about them here, but need to avoid them to avoid spoilers. The quotes we have referred so far must have given you a fair idea about the content and the quality of the book. In a summary, we can say overall an interesting thriller that remains true to its genre. If you love exploring police procedural, you will enjoy it for sure. Obviously, it is only for the mature readers. ThinkerViews rating would be around 7.5 to 8 stars out of 10. So, have you already read the book? Are you planning to read it? What do you think about this book review? Do you find it helpful in deciding whether to go for the book or not? Please do share your genuine remarks via comments below. If you have enjoyed listening to the review, Please hit the like button and do not forget to share it with your friends and other fellows whom you think such reviews interest more. Till we meet with our next podcast, bye bye, take care, namaskar.